afternoon, everybody, and welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. We have former Wolverine Jerry Diorio, who is with us on the line, ready to talk a little bit about Michigan. Jerry, great to see you. What's going on?
Great to be a Michigan Wolverine, Denny. Yeah, it was great seeing that spring game like we did and having the film and really looking at it. And, man, we got some surprises going on in Ann Arbor. There's some good things going on.
Well, I like it when you talk like that. We will look at Michigan.
How about this? How about this cover, Denny? College football, EA Sports. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Denard Robinson the last one on there?
I'm not going to correct you. I think you are right on that. You are right. And it's been a long time, since the college football EA Sports has been out of commission for a long time. And now it's back. I mean, it was annually, it took the place just like for the off season. For those of us that are old enough, it would be like being on the front cover of Sports Illustrated. That's how big of a deal it is, now in the 21st century. And then that they did away with it for so long. And now it's back. And now that they have Donovan Edwards on the front cover there, front and center, is really awesome. It's awesome for Edwards. It's awesome for Michigan. It's awesome for video game fans, EA Sports fans. There's so many of them. Not so awesome for Ohio State and Michigan State because they're complaining about it with Donovan Edwards being on there. But hey, you know what? That's part of you win the national championship, part of the spoils there. You get things like this and you get the recognition. So, I don't have any. I guess I have to throw some tissues the Buckeyes and Spartans way. They're not liking it, but too bad, right?
Well, the other thing is, Denny, I think there's a lot of Michigan fans out there, and I think they're doing a little marketing 101. They know Michigan fans will show up in great numbers, and they want to appreciate us.
Well, Jerry,
they want to make money.
Even before Michigan was set, even before Michigan won the national championship, they were set to play Texas. And that was always going to be a gigantic non-conference game that everyone was looking forward to. And, here it is on this front cover. You got the quarterback from the Longhorns over to the left of Edwards. But Edwards right there, he's the cover guy. He is the cover guy. Colorado's got their defensive back Hunter. He's a hell of a player, two-way player. And Jalen Milroe, who Michigan stopped in the Rose Bowl. This is the kind of cover that you get framed and put on your wall if you're a Michigan fan. You've got a lot. You've been able to make so many additions, Jerry, if you're a Michigan fan, to your, whatever, maybe your living room, with all the different things last year, the pictures. Now, it's still happening. You can get this one on there. This one would look good.
Well, I'm looking at this thing, and it's not just Ewers and Edwards and Hunter, but Milroe's on there. And I think they got the quarterback from Georgia on there. So it's a real slap in the face to Ohio.
You're right. It says Beck there. At first, I thought maybe that was Syracuse. It was I couldn't figure that out. But, yeah, Beck is the quarterback from Georgia. And if you look between Hunter and Edwards, you can see him up there. I am told that if you look right over Milroe's head, Jerry, there's a shade of gray, of green.
I can't make that one out, but I can see a maize blue M in a blue background. I do see that.
I see Oregon over to the right. I mean, there's no doubt. There's like it's the green and the yellow.
I see an N. I see a Nebraska one.
Oh, you do see Nebraska? Oh, there's an Ohio State. There's Judkins.
I don't see that Ohio one yet.
Oh, you don't? Right over the.
No, I don't see it.
Of Hunter. Now, I think you're being coy with me. I do see Judkins, and I think that is a Michigan State just a little bit over Milroe. But if you told me that it was another team with a green helmet, I mean, it looks like a Spartan green helmet. They got a little bit,
Danny, I'm seeing that Hawkeye, where I think you see that that Spartan.
You could be right. I do see a Michigan flag now that I'm looking closer.
Oh,
in
it's
the
definitely the
stand.
Michigan flag is right there, right on the left of
Yeah.
Edwards' helmet.
Yep. You're right about that. So it's it is a great day to be a Michigan fan. Seeing something like this gets you excited about the season. This is pretty awesome.
I think that's called NIL, isn't it? And I think Scott's got the right message on there. Donovan's going to do well this February or this fall, at least on campus.
I tell you, Donovan Edwards, there's a lot of people that looked and look, we had a lot of people last year who were watching Donovan Edwards. I think we were doing it when you're watching the game. You're just like, Donovan Edwards, people were expecting even more from him, but he came up big in the big games. He scored that touchdown against Penn State on the third down. And then obviously what he did in the first quarter and the national championship game will never be forgotten. 41-yard touchdown, 46-yard touchdown, all in the first quarter. And Michigan won the national championship 34-13. Donovan Edwards won the national championship game on those two runs in the first quarter. It would have been 14-13. They didn't need anything else. And we know what he did last year, I guess 2 years ago now, against Ohio State. Then he followed it up in the Big Ten championship game with a fabulous, he comes up big in the big games. And Michigan really, I don't know if we forget, because last year people were like, he just doesn't look like the same guy. But, he did it with one hand against OSU. Michigan really needed him with Blake Corum going down. And, I'll give you a hockey reference, Jerry. I remember, Scotty Bowman, the great Red Wings coach, probably the greatest hockey coach of all time. He was talking about goalies, and he said, give me the goalie that lets in the odd goal or gives up a 4 or 5 spot. But when the playoffs come and you really need that big save, give me that guy rather than the guy that, wins the Vezina and is a great backstop of the regular season and then gives up a bunch of soft goals in the playoffs. Edwards, this is Donovan Edwards, big game Don. And I think you got to be a little bit patient with him if you're a Michigan fan, but I like how he's put on. You hope this when you're a Michigan fan, when you're a college football fan. You hope, you see the guys as a freshman, you get excited, and then you think that's the finished product. Edwards, from last year to now this year in the offseason, he's put on weight. You could tell he is. He just sounds like he gets in. He appreciates the positions he's in. He sounds a lot smarter, or he just sounds like he's appreciating the situation, trying to be a leader. Everything that you would say in the offseason, he's doing. And he even mentioned it himself that last year he wasn't in the offseason. He was, dealing with the hand. He was also dealing a little bit with the knee, and that did affect his confidence a little bit last year. But the way Michigan, he's going to have as many carries as he wants. And, if you wanted to say this is his team, I know, players and coaches, Jerry, it's a team game and everything, but this is Donovan Edwards' team.
No question. This is Donovan. I'm looking back at his career, and I think we can all say he had a very good sophomore year, especially coming in and substituting for Corum when he did, and the big plays that he created substituting for Corum. So sophomore year, I thought he had a great year. Junior year might have been a little bit off, but I think he had 2 great runs against Penn State. One to set up the touchdown, and then the touchdown.
Good point.
I'm sorry.
Good point. You're right. Now that when you say it, I'm with you.
If Blake Corum isn't on our team, Donovan Edwards doesn't come out of that national championship game, and who knows what he was headed for in that game. I thought they should have rode him a little bit harder in that national championship game because he was the hot hand. He was the man. But this is definitely his team. I've seen it so many times over my life where that junior year slump happens. And these guys that come out of their sophomore year, they had a great sophomore year, and then they get into that junior year, and there's that slump. There's that letdown from the sophomore year. That excitement isn't quite there anymore. But now he's going into his senior year. This is his team. He's acting like the leader of this team. He's acting like the leader of this offense. And I'm looking for Donovan Edwards to have a phenomenal year. And like I told him before the spring game, I expect our running game to be as good, if not better, than last year.
Now, Jerry, what were you? I know the answer to this. Were you yelling from the stands? Hey, Donovan, you're going to have a better year.
No, I went right up to him, right up from behind him, grabbed his shoulder pads, shook his hand, and I said, I know we're going to have as good, if not better, running game this year than we will next year. And that's the way I see it. I mean, look at the first couple runs he had. I think if you look at the first, I think he had 6 carries for 100+ yards against the Washington. And then he comes into the spring game and people are bouncing off him. And so I'm looking for Donovan Edwards to be have an outstanding senior year. And, all the preseason stuff that's being out there, they don't sleep on Donovan Edwards nationally.
No, what do they say? Sleep at your own risk on Donovan Edwards.
Don't, to put 10 running backs ahead of him is that's craziness.
Jerry, he had 6 carries for over 100 yards and 2 TDs in the national championship game.
Yep.
That was pretty awesome. And we're just getting started here. We fired up the show and we've got all these things to talk about. And then Jerry's like, saw that cover and then he just ran with it. You grabbed the ball and you just kept running with it. We will look at Donovan Edwards and the running back 2 deep, 3 deep, everything there. We'll look at the 2 deep and we'll get Jerry's thoughts on the offense on Michigan's 2 deep. Jerry already mentioned the spring game where he was on the sideline. He also has some film and a couple plays that he's going to point out from the aforementioned spring game. Well, let's jump into that 2 deep. And that is where we start. It's with the quarterbacks. And Alex Orji out of spring is Michigan's quarterback 1. There was some thought that Michigan would go to the transfer portal. There was some thought that maybe somebody else could win the job because the competition was ongoing. But Alex Orji, he's your quarterback right now, and he is expected to be the starter against Fresno State. Jerry, as a former player and as a longtime coach, the fans are always talking about the QBs and how you divvy up the snaps, how you go to the possibility of rotations. What do you think the game plan against Fresno State with Alex Orji making his first start will be? What would your plan be for Orji against the Bulldogs on August 31st?
I'm going to treat Alex Orji as my number 1 quarterback, meaning that he is going to play the entire game unless we get a big enough lead and we can put some other people in. Alex Orji needs as many reps as he can get, especially since we play Texas week 2. Alex Orji, from all accounts, from everything you're seeing out there, that is our quarterback. And that's the system that our coaches are going to have to embrace. Alex Orji is our quarterback right now. And until something or somebody steps up and dethrones him, this is the guy I think you want to work your whole package around and design your package around and let him be your quarterback. I'm not thinking I'm going to have Orji go for 2 series and then Warren, and then where do you pull the plug? Do you go Tuttle again or Denegal or Davis? How many quarterbacks are we going to have in that first game? No, I'm treating this as Alex Orji, you're my quarterback. This is your first start. We're going to get as many snaps, as many competitive snaps under your belt as possible because you got a big week 2.
Jerry, what if they get to fall camp and whatever the margin is between Orji and, let's say, Davis Warren, that Warren just has, and he has a great fall camp. He's just zipping the ball around. And then Orji isn't. The gap closes. Would there be a thought for you as the coach to say, I know you just said that you wouldn't do that, but what if Warren is on fire in fall camp, and Orji is just kind of the same, and the gap is closed. Would there be any temptation to
identical and Tuttle and the whole shot? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're going into the fall, but I think, in my opinion, I want to go into the fall knowing that this guy is my guy at this point. Now, if something better comes up, that's all the better. But you do need to have that package with Orji in mind as your number one, but also that package with the other quarterbacks who are more, I think, gunslingers or pocket type quarterbacks than Alex Orji. You better have a system for them ready as well. But I'm just saying, Denny, yeah, you coming in, all competition's open. If Warren comes in and he just outplays Orji, then yeah, you're going to go with that combination. You're not going to say Orji's my quarterback, and I don't care how good everybody else is. No, I'm saying if everything is equal right now, coming out of the spring where we're at, Alex Orji is our quarterback from what I see. And if we go into the fall and we see something else happening, or somebody progressing tremendously, then we'll take a look at it. But right now, I'm thinking my starting quarterback in that Fresno game is going to play every competitive snap that he can. That's my point.
All right, Jerry, let me take you to game 2 on September the 7th. That's when Texas comes to town, and it's going to be Michigan, Texas. Certainly a top 10 battle as we sit here right now talking about it. Obviously, all the eyes in college football will be on this game. I compare Alex Orji the most to Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts. And when Jalen Hurts, he won the national championship when he was a freshman. And then Jalen Hurts was in a situation where he took Alabama again to the national championship game. What was it, against Georgia? Mm-hmm. And Nick Saban, who Michigan put out the pasture last year, Nick Saban at the half had a quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa, and he decided to make the switch at the half because he just needed to get that offense in the passing game going.
You know what was interesting about that, though, Denny, is I remember the commentators talking about Saban talking this Tua kid up tremendously, and how Tua was really on the tail of Hurst. And don't be surprised if we go with this young kid coming in the middle of the game and giving us some spark. But that was mentioned that was mentioned before even that national championship game, even before that move. So for me to see that move when it occurred, I wasn't too surprised. Going into Texas, okay, we're in a battle against Texas. First of all, I expect that battle to be tight all game long because our defense is going to be studly. And so I don't see a situation where we're down 10 or down 14, kind of like Milroe was this year. And then you got some questions to answer. But I think our defense is going to give Alex Orji every opportunity to win that game. And I think with a tight game, it's unless you really have a feeling in a tight game like that, national game like that, I think you want to go with your starter and go to the wall.
Funny part with Jalen Hurts is that he didn't get drafted in the first round, but in a lot of people, I listened to the experts when he was getting drafted. He can't throw the football, and that's what they were saying about him at Alabama. Great runner. I mean, he's a linebacker or a big safety playing QB, and then he won the championship. But they're saying that he couldn't throw the ball. I say that because it's a lot like Orji, but that followed Hurts. Obviously, he improved. He kept improving that aspect of his game. He really improved it when he went to Oklahoma, and Lincoln Riley got him in a situation where he looked like a different kind of QB. I don't know if it was Riley, just whatever he did to put his hands on him and help him out, unlock him at Oklahoma, but there's a little bit of that when people talk about Orji, mostly when you talk, and there's some truth to it. It's not just oh, he's just a running quarterback. But you get that knock on you, and Orji does have that knock on him. Oh, he's a great runner, and but what about the passing? And Hurts had that. So what would he have to do? You don't want to think about this, Jerry, but I'm going to ask anyways. What would have to happen? You said it's going to be a tight game. What would have to happen for you to think about going to Davis Warren in the Texas game?
If Alex Orji puts us in a position where the game isn't tight at the end. In other words, 3 or 4 turnovers, deep in our territory, unforced errors like that are putting us in a position that we can't be successful, where our defense can't bail us out. So that would be the kind of situation I would see to make a move. Something where it's just, it's too obvious. And I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to expect our talent, especially on defense, to carry the day. Don't put our quarterback in a position to lose a game. And I think you got to build a system around him. Okay, everybody's talking about it. Alex Orji's a great runner. We don't know about his throwing. Okay, fine. Then why don't we put in a package that's got him pounding the ball, running hard, both ways, running back and quarterback. Now you got a 2-back option there on running the ball, and then give them opportunities to throw passes that are going to be open because of the play action. So that's what I would do if I'm coaching here. I'm building my system around Orji. I do have another system for the other quarterbacks. I made that mistake. I didn't have that system in for other quarterbacks that weren't like my running quarterback. And so you can't, when you see Warren, I think you're going to have a little bit more of a drop back package, kind of like JJ. Alex Orji, he's a running quarterback. Well, then you can't be afraid to run him. Then you've got to run that quarterback power. You've got to run those read options. Like Antoine is saying with RPOs. I'm not a big RPO guy, but I think that would fit Alex Orji a little bit better. So that's what I'm doing in the offseason.
I love it. The fans, it's pretty amazing. As we just sit here and talk about it, we've had a lot of people like, it's going to be Orji. There's, Davis Warren. There's people casting it a lot. There's other people that think it's going to be Tuttle. So still, I mean, it's the summer. We get a lot of time. That's kind of what the summer's for, is talking about this kind of stuff and throwing it around a little bit. And there it is. We talked a lot about the 2 deep with the quarterbacks. Let's go to another position group on offense. This is the running backs, and we talked about Donovan Edwards quite a bit. He is the lead back. How many carries he's going to get, Jerry? I guess that's going to be I remember asking Donovan, about a month ago or so, does he have a sweet spot and how many carries? He said he didn't care as long as they're winning. So you like to hear stuff like that.
That's the obvious answer right there.
That was a good one. That was a good one. But he obviously could catch the ball out of the backfield. He's a home run threat. And if I don't know, Jared, did you like to have a thunder and lightning combination in your backfield as a coach? Because it's set up for the Lightning at Edwards and then Mullings to be the Thunder. Did you like that when you were the coach? Do you like it with Michigan in a 1-2 punch?
Yeah, I love that, because now that defense has to focus on 2 different running styles. 2 different types of running backs. And I'm not talking about 2. I'm talking about a ton. I mean, you've got Edwards, you got Mullins. Yeah. Ben Hall. I thought he had a pretty decent spring game, and he wasn't getting the kind of holes that I thought he was going to get. Dunlop looked real good. He exploited some big holes. Cole Cabana, I would have loved to have seen him a little bit more in that spring game, or Cole Cabana, I would love to have seen that at all, because I think he's got some speed, and some of that speed is breakaway type speed, where he might have broken a couple of those plays that Dunlop got 10, 15 yards on. So there's a load of talent in that backfield. Jordan Marshall, and maybe that's why the kid from Cleveland looked at that room and said, "It's going to be a long time before I'm going to be the guy, if at all." So Yeah, that's problematic for a defense. You got somebody that's just coming in here and pounding. All of a sudden, you got some elusive guy. Denny, I know you can remember the Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, Larry Zonka, Jim Kick, Mercury Morris. I mean, those were terrifying combinations of running backs that people threw at them, and that's always dangerous on a defense.
The backfield for the 72 Dolphins. I didn't think that we were going to be going there, but yeah. Old number 39, Larry Zonka, who had that, I don't know, the face.
Horseshoe, that bullhorn.
Man.
That bullhorn, that bull ring.
I love that thing, the bull ring over there. You know, Cabana, he must, I don't know, I'm guessing, but I'm guessing that he was dealing with something because he was dressed for the spring game. And before it went to the TV copy to Fox, he was out there with Mullings just taking handoffs and running to the end zone and, just watching him there. And he is renowned coming in to Michigan as a track guy with speed to burn. So, he is somebody to keep an eye on. That's one of those guys that we haven't seen anywhere that could be a huge surprise. He's like a young Donovan Edwards, the way it sees. I think the X factor out of all this, I mean, you've gone through these guys. Dunlap looked like he could be a short yardage special. Like he could come in and be a real thumper. He's got an NFL type build. Hall, who knows? He seems like he's got a great ceiling. Everything that we saw this year, and then certainly last year as a true freshman, he looked great. And then you've got two true freshmen coming in, and Marshall, a very highly regarded, coming in out of Ohio, Cincinnati. And Capana, Michigan took him, and nobody had heard of him, but then he kind of rose up in the rankings. He's a little bit of a wild card. This is Michigan's going to be running the ball. They're going to smash, and they've got the personnel to do it. What it looks like here.
I'm when I started talking about, remember, Denny, I coached against Cole Cabana. We went against him in a playoff game when I was head coach at Battle Creek Lakeview, and I knew the storm was coming on a Friday night, and I said, we're not changing the game. We're going to play on this mud field, and we're going to see how this guy moves, because we had film on him from game one all the way through, and the only thing I kept seeing on Cole Cabana was him running away from people. And we beat him 49-48 in a very fortunate situation, blocked an extra point. Made ours in overtime, but I think he had over 300 yards rushing against us. And, and that was a mud pit. So the backfield room is solid. Jordan Marshall, I can't wait to see him play. I'm really looking forward to him. And Capana, there's a lot of people interested in him. So there's a lot of talent in that room.
Jerry, 49-48 overtime in a high school playoff game. So that was that a semifinal game?
That was a first round playoff game, Denny.
First round playoff game.
Round playoff game. Yep.
Wow.
Denny, it was. I told our AD, we're not playing on Saturday and we're not playing on Thursday. We're playing on Friday night, and make it rain.
And you were talking about actual rain.
Make it rain.
Make it rain.
We played. Remember the old mud bowl, Denny, that fraternity used to have?
Oh yeah. Yes,
that's what it looked like. That's what our field looked like.
Yeah, I've just seen pictures. I've driven by a few times. I mean, it's kind of carved out down in there, that mud bowl, and so you have seen Cole Cabana up close, running away from some of your guys in that game. What'd you tell your defensive coordinator about that?
I said we've got, I'm not worried about. I'm worried about percentages of stops. We're going to try to control the game as much as possible. I didn't see him running away from our guys. Yeah, I saw him run away from our guys, but I saw him run away from guys all year long.
Yeah,
right. And that's what the scary part was, seeing him on film. I mean, long runs where he just, and it was gone. So, I'm mentioning him, but there's a ton of talent out there. Ton of talent in that backfield room.
There is. All right. So we've gone to the quarterbacks and we have hit on the running backs as we walk through the two deep on offense with Jerry Diorio, the former Wolverine. As we go to the wide receivers, Michigan brought in a out of the transfer portal from Youngstown, CJ Charleston. But here are the rest. You've got the M&M boys, Moore, Morris, and Morgan, and we have seen Samaj in the return game. We saw Tyler Morris in the Rose Bowl look like a pro. Fred Moore had a great spring game, and when you talk to these wide receivers, they love the ability. I remember Harbaugh last year saying this Moore can track the ball as good as anyone. Samaj Morgan really complimented Fred Moore out of St. Louis and his route running. A lot of talk about Frederick Moore, and then we saw a little bit of that in the spring game. And Morris and Morgan, we've seen actually in the games, Jerry.
No, well, look at that list. You got Freddie Moore, Tyler Morris, and Samaj Morgan. Those are the three I'm going to concentrate on right now. Yeah. Samaj Morgan, what did I say? I said last year during the season, he is the poor man's version of Tyreek Hill. Okay, that's the kind of explosion I've seen from Samaj Morgan. I mean, you go back to that punt return against Iowa. Where I really want to see Samaj Morgan come into play is I would love to see that he has solidified that punt return position, because that could be a huge play for us. It busted open the Iowa game. And Samaj Morgan back there, I think that could be very, very problematic for teams to concentrate. Morris, like you said, great game in the Rose Bowl, running away from people. He's experienced. He's going to come back with some experience, and he's ready to go. And then Freddie Moore, he kind of reminds me something between Morgan and Morris. He's a little bit bigger than Morgan, not quite as fast, but I think he needs to work on his pass catching skills a little bit more, but I think he can be dangerous. He was dangerous in the spring game. He scored a touchdown. So, it's not going to be the strength of our team by any stretch of the imagination. No way. But it's definitely got some issues that you've got to address if you're a defensive coordinator. And you've got some really skilled people out there that if they get in the loose, they can break it on you.
I like it. And Jerry calling Samaj Morgan Little Cheetah. That's Tyreek Hill's nickname. So the Little Cheetah, I was thinking that, and he even had a better season than Desmond Howard of Samaj Morgan did in totality at the end. And we all know what Desmond Howard was able to do over his career at Michigan. So I was always thinking, Little Magic or Little Desmond, but Little Cheetah, sounds pretty good too. So we'll have to figure that one out. I like it. Nothing wrong with a couple.
Everything reminds me about the guy. I mean, the way, the running style, everything about him reminds me of him. So I don't think he's got the same speed as him. I would agree with that, Moose. But no, he just reminds me of him a little bit.
Well, they're both, 5'10" packages, kind of, like Desmond that way too, right? So,
and they've got elusiveness. Both of them have the elusiveness that I like. So,
Old Timer coming up with the group name of 3M, which fits really well. Yeah,
that's a nice one.
Or Morris and Morgan, dynamic, exciting. Morris steady and quick, and now he's taking us to Old Timer 56 to the tight end room, and then they've got two freshmen in here. Who knows how those guys will figure in when it all is said and done. Let's go to those tight ends, and I want to give a shout out to Trevor McHugh, the senior editor of the Maize and Blue Review. He's a little bit under the weather, and hopefully he's getting better. He did a story this week that said Michigan's number one wide receiver and big wide receiver and go-to pass catcher is none of the guys we just mentioned. It's number 18 in the Maize and Blue, and that's Colston Loveland. And it's not unheard of. We've just been talking about the pro game. There've been a few pro teams that feature their tight ends, Kansas City being one. now that Tyreek Hill is in Miami for a few years with Taylor Swift's boyfriend. And then also you think of Mark Andrews with the Ravens. Loveland is, all of the lofty comparisons are appropriate when it comes down to this guy. The sky's the limit. What about the tight end group here, Jerry?
Well, obviously, I think we've got one of the top three tight ends in the country without question, and he is an absolute mismatch matchup nightmare for defensive coordinators. If you split them out, you got a corner on them, that you're rolling the dice. And so Loveland is that matchup that people don't want to see. He's one of the top three tight ends in the country, if not number one. Our number one tight end is secure. Marlon Klein had a great spring, I think. Showed me a lot blocking. There were a couple times where I thought he could have been a little bit better blocking, but he showed me a lot. And from what I understand about this kid, he's got great ball skills, great hands, great speed. He's one of the fastest kids on the team. If you're looking for a wide receiver out of that tight end group, it might be Klein as much as anybody. From what I understand, this kid's got great ball skills and great speed. So those two tight ends, we're losing Barner, but I think Klein's going to show well. I like Tonelli. I thought he had a nice nice spring game. He got that nice catch in the first half against the blue team. So I think he's going to be good. Marshall showed some things. Hanson, these freshman tight ends. I mean, I think we got 4 freshman tight ends on the roster right now, if I'm not mistaken. So they all look good in the uniform. Brady Prescorn, the kid out of where is it? Was it Clarkston or
no, not Clarkston. I always forget. Prescorn.
Yeah. Anyway, so we've got the tight ends. We've got some tight ends out there. Some tight ends with great ball skills and some speed. I want to see us be able to block a little bit better at that tight end position again. But we'll see how that goes.
Rochester Adams. That's where
Adams. There you go. Yeah, Rochester Adams. Yep.
Is from. I think this might be the sneaky spot for Michigan, where I don't know if it's a superpower for them, but Loveland, obviously, you've just talked about. Klein, the way they talked about his ability to run. Colston 6'5", 245. Klein listed at 6'6", 250. And if he has those kind of wheels, Tonelli, I don't know what are they, just little crossing routes that they were featured a few times in the spring game. If you got 6'6", 6'5" guys that are 250 that are just running little drag routes on linebackers, and you just got Orji playing pitch and catch with the ability of these guys to run, Marshall, Hanson, Prescorn, this might be where Michigan, we might be sleeping on this entire position group and just what, this could be the strength. We talk so much about the running game and what they can do, but that ability for 6'5", 6'6" guys, these guys are all like, Xerox copies of each other. Get them out there. They can all run. They're big. And Jerry, what can that do if you put 2 or 3 of these guys out there and they can block and they're coming out of the same formations? You don't know where they're going to run. You don't know where they're going to throw. That seems like what Michigan wants to do.
The only reason I didn't first come out and say that this is the strength of our team is because I want to see them block in the game, in a real game, because this group could be the strength of our team. Absolutely, Dennis. No question about it. How about this, Dennis? How about putting 7 offensive linemen in and having 2 tight ends on the outside and one running back? I mean, that could be a dangerous situation. I think we saw that in Happy Valley last year a little bit. But this year we could even have 2 big tight ends to go with those 7 offensive linemen. So the tight end position, if we get that blocking down, if we start moving people off the ball with our tight ends, it could be the strength of our team, no question. And yes, there could be situations where you have 3 and maybe even 4 tight ends on the field at the same time.
So what's it going to take? So Loveland, you think about him more as a pass catcher, but Jim Scarcelli, who joins us on Wednesdays, has really kept his eye on Loveland and has talked about him being a more willing and more effective blocker in what he's seen through the first 2 years. We know that Grant Newsome, who was an offensive lineman, who was tight ends coach, would have had an impact on him. And now Michigan with Steve Kasula, who comes over from UMass. What's it take to turn these guys into not only pass catchers, but guys that can put their hand in the ground and give them what they want in the run game?
The old sled and the old cage.
The old sled, the old cage. Huh?
So let's start there, and then they're going to come in the fall, and they're going to have those hoot and holler drills, those one-on-one Oklahoma type scenarios where the tight end's going to go against those edge rushers, and they're going to have to go one-on-one and see what happens. So I'm not too concerned with our tight ends blocking, but I want to see him block in those first couple games and give them that's our strength of our team.
I like it. And strength of your team, what you're talking about. And that is it with the tight end position. And, you could put Max Bredesen in a number of different spots. He can really block H-back. You need him in a pinch as a tight end. You need him as a fullback. I mean, that's what an H-back is, right, Jerry? And they love him. They love Bredesen. And Jim Harbaugh likes a fullback. John Harbaugh likes a fullback. Sharon Moore likes a fullback too. These guys are all cut from the same cloth.
So do I. I love the fullback. I remember when Bo asked Jimmy if what he was going to run on offense. He says, and Jimmy started telling him, and Bo said, "You better have a fullback and you better have a tight end." So I'm still old school. That's what I believe in.
Yeah, I remember when Harbaugh was coaching at Stanford and whoever was calling the game. He's like, Harbaugh ran that play for Bo. I mean, that's the thing. Now, Jerry, you are you were a head coach, so you like all the positions and everything else. But when you played, you were an offensive line men, and so the big guys up front, the road graders, the protectors, the offensive line. Too deep. This is near and dear to your heart. You take a look at it, and what jumps out at you. Miles Hinton had 5 starts. That's it in terms of starting, except Preeb, who comes over from Northwestern, started 12 games for the Cats. So there is some experience there. The rest of these guys, so you're going to have 3 guys that are going to be making first-time starts, whoever it is, besides Hinton and Preeb. How quickly they gel, who the best 5 are, all of that. Here's a best guess. I don't know if you agree with it or not, but what do you think of the offensive line?
A lot deeper than I thought they were going to be, actually. I mean, I'm seeing on this list, Denny, you don't have dominant guidance, and from what I understand, he was one of the top graders in spring ball. So, I mean, from what I saw coming out of spring ball, I think we've got a lot deeper offensive line than people are giving us credit for. You mentioned Hinton, you mentioned Preep. Those 2, I would put those as starters. Okay, Hinton started at Stanford, correct?
Hinton, I don't know how many starts he had at Stanford. I know he had 5
at Michigan.
At Michigan, yeah, that's what I know.
Pre, we know he started at Northwestern, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that is correct.
Crippen, he's got some starts under his belt. If I'm not,
I don't think he's got not admit. No, he hasn't. No, he's got no.
I thought either a year or 2 ago, or I thought 2 years ago he had a start. Maybe not. Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to look into it.
Okay, but when you look at that, Nate Afabi is a second teamer on this team. This kid starts at every other school in the Big Ten. Watch him. Henderson showed me a ton at center this spring. Like I said, we don't have guidance up there. Guidance, from what I understood, he graded out as high as anybody on the offensive line. Percy is your second team offensive guard. So there's a tremendous amount of depth on this offensive line. And you know what that depth is going to do is going to make those 5 guys that you got listed first. They're going to make them better first and foremost. Because if they don't get better, they're going to have to. They might be looking over their shoulder to be replaced. And so that's one great thing about having all this depth. It's going to create a competition. It's going to make that first 5 even better, or they're going to be they're not going to be playing long.
And it was my mistake, Jerry. You're right. Gio El Hadi, I don't know how much time he missed. Neither Preeb or El Hadi played in the spring game, and I think El Hadi missed some time overall in the spring with whatever he was dealing with. And Dom Jadis, who moved over from the defensive side to the offensive side, I believe he was a starter for the majority of spring over at right guard. And like you're saying, he stood out. So he should be definitely mentioned in there, Dom.
You call him Jadis. Is that how you pronounce it?
That's what the pronunciation guide. Yeah. I mean, it looks like a guidus. I agree with that, but it's in the
whatever
guide. Jadis.
We'll get that corrected, Denny, but I'm telling you right now, this kid looked good. He looked good at guard. He looked good at center. He was the one I mentioned in the film study where he would not allow Etta to get over the top. So, these guys, a lot of depth on the offensive line. And I'm excited to see that offense. Remember, Denny, there's nothing to say you can't go too deep in a game with the offensive line and wear people down with that offensive line. So, I mean, Bear Bryant used to make a living off of that. So we'll see. We'll see how this offensive line gels.
I like references to Bear Bryant. BN thinks Evan Link, who is listed as a backup to Miles Hinton, he thinks he's going to be Michigan's next high-round tackle draft pick. Still wants him to fill out a little bit more. Well, he's only a redshirt freshman, so he'll have that ability to do that, right?
Yeah. There was another freshman that was that I don't know if he's on that list. Gosh darn it. Oh, we haven't mentioned Guarnera.
Yeah, well, he was a true freshman in for spring, right? Jake Guarnera. Yep.
Out
of Virda in Florida. Yeah, he looked pretty good as a freshman. You're right.
Blake Frazier. Do you have him up there?
Freshman. No, I don't. Well. Right. He was in for spring too.
He played well in the spring. So yeah, this offensive line is very deep. Very deep. A lot of players.
I like it. And here's P. Maximus saying, out of our 6 offensive linemen from this past draft, how many were really drafted? Not talking about, out of the offensive linemen, Zinner and Keegan.
Keegan was.
Yeah.
Barnhart and Nugent were not, and neither was Jones. So.
Correct. So 2. The two guards.
And Hinton looks like a man-child. I mean, you look at him and you just –
yeah.
I mean, he's intimidating looking. He's that big. He's a house. And so I think he could be a huge draft choice this year for us.
Yeah, anyone that's ever been in the presence of Miles Hinton and does exactly what, it says exactly what you're saying right now. He's I saw him at one of the press conferences this year, and he came out and he's wearing a T-shirt. And I said, this guy looks like Larry Allen, the guard from the Cowboys.
You remember him? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Henderson was a 7th rounder. There's a good catch from OT. Ladarius Henderson was snagged there.
Oh, that's right. Yep. I forgot. I knew there was one more. Yep, good one.
Nice job on that. So there it is with the 2 deep for Michigan. Oh, that's it. Jerry, what's next? Do we have a play or 2 that we want to look at?
Next week. If we got some time, I wouldn't mind going over and showing a little bit about how we differentiate between wedge and power and zone and counter. So I wouldn't have a problem with that if you're okay with it.
I'm okay with it. Let's ask the people. Are they okay with it? And we'll stay here a little bit longer. It's the great part about podcast. We can go for 10 minutes. We can go for 2 hours. And we're ready to look at a little bit of film. And for that, we just have to click the button. And there it is.
We're ready to go, Denny?
It is ready. and we are off and running. Correct.
Okay. First thing I want to show is this. These two over here on the offensive line. I think it's Gadis and Bounce over here. This is the combo that I thought really made our offensive line gel last year. This combo blocking on the pass. This is what made us really good offensive line because they stayed on the same level. They didn't get off of each other's level. And they were picking this twist up routinely. You see our little guy, our little freshman Link, you see what he does? He steps inside for just that second, and that's what loses Rolder on the outside. He's got to step back out. So he's going to learn that. He's going to learn. Just stay on your path. Don't go chasing people. Don't go chasing people. Don't go chasing that angling defensive end. I think that is who? Number 90, Awana? Okay? Don't go chasing. Just stay on your path, and people will come. And I think that's one thing that really made our offensive line great last year, and we're going to have to do a better job this year. Again, same thing. And this is a tough stunt. The defensive tackle coming up, taking out the offensive tackle, and the edge coming underneath. This is a very difficult stunt. We utilized it a tremendous amount last year, and it was very successful for us. We've got to we have to do a better job. Here's guidance. Again, he's going out chasing. He's going out chasing when something's coming underneath. Now, Link could do a better job staying on the same level and really coming down hard when he sees that guy go down. There's nobody else out there threatening. Right here. There's nothing out here threatening. Link should have been back in this position, pushing guidance off inside. And I think it would have been a better play. But look at the pressure, what it does. It makes Denigol throw with basically just his arm and not follow through with his foot. If he throws with his whole body, it's probably a touchdown. But you see, who is that? Number 90? Is that number 90 coming through there?
That's the French. It's 90.
Yep. Makes him pull off that, and that's what makes him underthrow that ball right there. Okay,
Jerry, it's not the easiest. I mean, I know that's what spring is for, to practice those twists. I don't know. It wasn't 2 years ago. I think it was 3 years ago. Michigan was struggling with their starters and their veterans at tackle and guard, being able to just have the communication and work with that twist. They had a very difficult time with it.
Denny, that twist right there, I have found to be one of the toughest things to guard against with pass protection. That is, if you can do that, you've got a heck of an offensive line. If you can get that done, you've got one great offensive line. That's probably the toughest combination, and that's what we're going to have to get better at. That's where we're going to have to get better at that combination. If we do, I think we're going to be a very good football team this year.
And that's not being in the sled. That's communication with your partner and just knowing how to pass them off. And
staying rep after rep after rep, staying on the same level, getting to know that guy inside. And I think we talked about it last week. We're playing with different personnel. So right now they can't really get into a team game with that kickoff or that push off, that trade off with that combination, that pass blocking combination. So, but I could see us getting a lot better at that. And then we got some young linemen. I think by the time they're seniors, they're going to be real good at that. All right, Denny, I wanted to go over a couple run schemes here. I'm going to call this power all year. And the reason I'm going to call this power and not wedge is because we've got a down path by our offensive linemen. And what that does, it gives our kick out an opportunity to get inside and kick out and pull the backside guard around. Now, what we do on defense is pretty intelligent here. We're running in what we used to call white eagle, which is a one technique on the strong side of the center, a 5 technique with the defensive end and the edge out here. So you got 3 down defensive linemen over here. You got the linebacker, but he also walked up the strong safety. So now he's got another defensive personnel in there to stop the power play. And this is pretty smart. This is old school Michigan football right here. We used, the old Okie 5-2, whatever you want to call it, with that strong safety walk down to come up and support the run. That is old school Michigan defense right there. And they do a heck of a job. But we still get through. There's guidance coming through. He's actually picking up the wrong guy, but you never let one guy go. You never pass up one to get to another. So he does a great job picking up somebody he shouldn't have been. This is the guy he should have been picking up right here, Denny. This is the linebacker that should have been picked up. But since the strong safety comes down and shows, he's got to get that, which leaves him open. He's open. These guys are going to work their double team to the backside. And the defense does a good job getting more people to the ball than the offense. But if we keep moving and we move the pile and we get 4 yards. So that's a good power play. That's a power. It's all down, kick out, tunnel, and move the pile. This is wet.
How does 55 grade out on that last play? He pulled. He looked like he went in the hole and looked like he smashed whoever was a would-be tackler. It looked like he had the angle on him. Looked like he took him out of the play. Does he get graded?
I think that's 56. I think this is.
I thought that was 50. I think that's 55.
Is this 50? Okay.
No. Well, let's take a look at it. You could be right. I looked at it.
Oh, you're right, Denny. Okay. That is a fobby.
All right. Okay.
My bad. My bad. Right. That's a good job. Yeah, that's a great job by a fobby coming through there. I mean, he's got to pick that up. That's not his man, but he's got to pick that up. He shows right now that front side linebacker is his guy, but that strong safety shows he does a good job adjusting and making that play. So, yeah, that's a good job by a fobby. That actually gets us the 3 or 4 yards that we had right there. Okay, this is wedge. Wedge, you don't have anybody pulling. All you're doing is you're going to move the pile. We're going to wedge right on this gap right here between the left guard and the left tackle. And we're going to try to get this double team movement and get it going north and south. The power double team, we wanted to come down more northeast, southwest kind of direction. This one, we want to get north and south. We want to get movement north and south. And all that movement does is it tries to catch these linebackers. We want to catch these linebackers in the pile. Once you catch the linebackers in the pile, now they're in trouble. And that's what these wedge plays, and that's what these double teams do. Look at the pile move. You want to talk about a fobby, Denny, watch him at the left guard right there. Watch his feet keep moving. He's just as responsible for that 5-yard run as the running back. You see him burying that kid?
Yeah.
Watch Link. Link's got to keep his shoulders square, 71. There's no reason for me to see his number. We don't want to see a number from the camera if we're the offensive line coach. We want to see our shoulders square on this scheme. But that's great push. That's great push right there by the offensive line, and it's a great system. I love the wedge because you're not pulling anybody. There's no real chance of run through, and you're just telling your offensive lineman, get off the ball and knock them off the line. And you got to love that kind of play.
Yeah, 2 questions, Jerry. You just answered one of them. I would think that the offensive lineman where you could just put your hand out and you're telling them, blast the guy in front of you. We're going to move this ball down the field. But Antoine's thinking the same thing I am. He asked if you could ask about why teams don't run the wedge more, and if you ever seen an RPO wedge. He said it's risky. I would add on to that, if you're going to run the brotherly shove with Alex Orji, are you tightening up your splits? Could you see?
Oh, absolutely.
With Orji pushing forward, because he's got that strength, that low to the ground, the squat ability, the RDL ability, where he could just get down and you feel like he could be Jalen Hurts effective. I feel like Michigan's going to break that out against Texas and in any kind of short yardage situation. And is that what they're going to be doing? It would be wedge, but just even a little bit tighter in short yardage situations?
Right. Well, Denny, I'm going to get back to Antoine, and then I'm going to come back to you. Antoine, what he's asking is, why don't more teams run this wedge? Well, Antoine, the simple answer that I've got for you is, why don't a lot more teams run this type of offense altogether? Okay, this is the revolutionary offense of the 21st century. Everybody is 4 wide, 1 back, 3 by 1 wide, and we're going to throw, and we're going to just have 1 or 2 running plays, and we're going to throw off of it. And they say that we're not going to put in a lot of running plays. We're going to get really good at 1 or 2, and that's our run game. Well, Michigan has come up with this totally different philosophy. We're going to put in a ton of run plays that you're going to have to defend. And now you're going to have to defend it with guys you haven't recruited for playing that type of offense. And so that's why, Antoine, the reason why I'm getting to is people don't run our offense, Antoine. People don't run our offense, Antoine. That's why they don't do it. They don't have enough time to put this kind of package in because they've chosen to go with a different package. I think I've said it a few times here. Ohio can want to get to be a really tough team all they want. But at the end of the day, who are they recruiting? They're recruiting for their system. And their system is not this system. And that's why they've struggled against us recently. And our run game has exploited that. So,
and Jerry, if I could add on, I think that's what Lincoln Riley's the trouble that he's going to run into. Lincoln Riley, he looks like he's a great play caller. He can draw up. He deals with quarterbacks. Offense is awesome, but back at Oklahoma, they couldn't play a lick of defense. USC, they haven't been able to do it. It was an embarrassment 2 years ago where they're out there playing two-hand touch patty cake. They keep changing, bringing in transfers, but they have not solved the defensive side because of the way, I think what you're talking about. They recruit a certain way, they play a certain way, they coach it a certain way, and then they get into the game and they bring Michigan in. Michigan's playing a different game.
Totally different. These guys on everybody else's campus, these guys right here are playing a little bit softer than they would in this game. Do you understand what I'm saying there, Denny?
Yeah.
These guys are not seeing the same thing that Michigan defenses are seeing every day on the offensive side. In other words, our defense is seeing our offense. So they've got to be tough. They've got to come down and stop the run. They've got to be tough football players. These guys at Ohio, at Oklahoma, at USC, at Washington, what are they seeing? They're seeing Caleb Williams with his 4 wide receivers. Sometimes not even a lot of teams, not even a lot of tight ends. They're not seeing the same game that they're going to see when they come into here. And so that's a total different preparation, and that's not easy to do.
Jerry, are we looking at, I think Scar mentioned that Nebraska and Matt Rule is getting a fullback in there, and maybe that's the way he's going to recruit. Maybe that's we know that they're watching Michigan for the last 3 years and thinking, hey, maybe we should be zigging like Michigan and trying something out. Might be something to look for Nebraska in the next couple of years. Rule seems like a pretty sharp guy.
If you're a tight end, where would you want to go more than anywhere?
Michigan.
Absolutely. And that I think that sums it up as well as anything. We recruit tight ends because we need tight ends to run block and everything else. And so I think that's a separating point. We use tight ends. We use fullbacks. The other teams, they don't. And then they get a culture shock when they come in and see us. It's a totally different game. Totally different game. All right, Danny, I'm going to take this last one. This is the outside zone. So we looked at power. Everybody's blocking down. We're pulling the guard around. We're kicking out, all that good stuff. We're watching wedge. We're just getting movement this way. Boom. We're just double team, shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, moving people off the ball. Now we're going to run zone where all the offensive linemen are going in the same direction. Nobody is deviating from that direction. What we have to do a better job is, in my opinion, is deciding if we want this play to go outside. You see Tonelli having a real hard time right now with that outside linebacker because he's in a bad position. Okay? Tonelli. And if we run inside Tonelli, I think we got a good path. We got our tackle up on the linebacker, and we're running right downhill. So that to me is the biggest problem with our outside zone. We've got to decide where we want that thing to hit and go from there.
I love it, Jerry. That was great stuff. You know, the former broadcaster for the Tigers, the old catcher who passed away recently or the last couple of years, Jim Price, used to say with the outfield configuration, the Tigers would be moving him around, and he'd always say, play him a certain way, pitch him a certain way. And in Michigan, they're recruiting a certain way, they're coaching a certain way, and they're calling plays a certain way for their personnel. And we've seen it out there on the field for their offense for the last couple of years.
You know, I keep bringing up Ohio, and they're tough. They want to get tough. Okay,
right? Ohio.
You watched their spring game, and they weren't even tackling the running backs 100% of the time. That's a culture. That's in their system. That's them. Okay. You saw Michigan. I mean, we're hitting guys almost out of bounds, and I mean, gang tackling them. That's the difference in Michigan and Ohio right now, and what's going on the football field. We're taking it to an intense level, and they're relying on their 5-star talent, and that's what, in my opinion, that's what it's boiling down to right now.
Michigan's got a big 4x4 truck, and Ohio State's got another Maserati that they're trying to drive around. And it's fine if you're out there in a nice pavement, but, you know, Jerry, you get some inclement weather, you get out there on the grass, and then, you know, it's a different story. So
you get in the Baja, it's a little bit different car.
That's right. I like it. Hey, great stuff, Jerry. We learned a lot today, had a lot of fun. Thanks for the insight, the knowledge, the coaching. I feel like I know more about football today than I did just an hour ago.
Well, you know, I love being on here, Denny. I love your presence, and you set it up pretty doggone well. So, and I love the audience, man. You got some great stuff out there. Great engagement, great interaction.
The people love you, Jerry. I do too. Smash that like button. Jerry, take care. We'll talk with you next week.
Hail to the victors, Denny.
That's what I was waiting for. Go ahead. Give us that 5-star rating.